So I've come across numerous people accidentally sending Theta token to their Ethereum address, and it might be to a hardware wallet where they don't actually have access to the private keys. As long as you have access to the private keys, even though you accidentally sent your Theta tokens to an Ethereum address, which you shouldn't, because Theta token is not an Ethereum type of a coin, or on their ERC20 token system. It's not on there. It is its own blockchain, very similar to Ethereum though. So you're able to still recover. So if you have a hardware wallet, like a Trezor, Nano S, Nano X, Nano Blue, I think, all of those, you say, well, how do I get my private key to have access to what's on there over on the ThetaToken.org website? So as long as you have it, your Nano, in this case I have a Nano S, and I just saved a guy, approximately current price of Theta 70 cents or so, $168,000. I think he had some stuff on Binance. He had over 200,000 Theta on Binance, transferred it not thinking, oopsie, sent it right over. It's actually 73 cents right now. Almost 74. So let's do the math just to see, if I was a nasty rascal, what I could have earned off of that. Although I don't remember the exact number he had now. It's a little over 200,000, I think. It was more than a little over, because I did it at 70 cents and it was like $168,000, I think. And I just did 202,000. It's 147,000 at 73 cents. So yeah, he had maybe 225,000. I don't know. It was $168,000 at the current price that I put in, which was 70 cents. So it's actually 3 cents more than that now. At any rate, it's a good thing I'm one of those guys that's kind of a nice guy. You know what I'm saying? There are very, very few of us that are like that these days. So I'm just doing an update real quick on my Ledger Live, because I want to show you honestly how easy this could be for you. And Trezor is the same thing. You don't need Ledger Live for Trezor, but Trezor, if you have it, you can plug it right in, go to the ThetaToken.org website, and you have your stuff. So my Nano S, I wiped it, and I didn't have anything on it anyways, because I have other wallets too, but I wiped it and put his seed phrase, this guy's seed phrase, on it, so that I could restore it, so that it gave me his address, because he's telling me his address, and I'm trying to get this thing using the BIP39 tool. There's like a backdoor way of doing this, and I can't seem to get his exact address that he says this is what comes up in Ledger Live. And I'm like, well, let me just double check this. Okay, so long story short, I said, you know what, let me just restore my Nano with his seed phrase. And of course mine needed to be updated. It did say there was a firmware update, but I was like, no, don't do that right now. So if you go to Theta Token website, which I'm going to do right now, ThetaToken.org, wallet, key store, mnemonic phrase, private key, or hardware. So I initially put in his mnemonic phrase, and it was a 20, you know, within the Nano you could do 12 word, 18 word, 24 word, I think. His was a 24 word, but there's some other additional settings that you can't adjust. So when you put in the word phrase and you hit unlock, it came up with the wrong address, so nothing would show up. So I'm like, okay, I need to really get the right private key, or if I use the hardware wallet and log in, I should be able to do it too. So I was able to do it both ways using the BIP39 tool ultimately, but I also, after I did it, I'm like, no, I want to see if I can do this with this damn hardware device. So one thing you have got to know that is extremely important, this is the Ledger Live, this is strictly for Ledger devices, not Trezor. This part, you're going to click on Manager. When you have this thing plugged in and you're logged in and everything, allow manager. I'll hit yes on my device, and it will let me in. So normally what will happen once you click on manager, if it needs to be updated, you will see right here firmware, it'll say out of date right in your face, click here to update it. Depending on what version you were previously on Nano, the device itself might not have to be wiped. when it does its firmware update. So I was on 1.4 something, 1.43 maybe, and I did 2 updates. One was wiped to 1.60, and then the last one was 1.61. And I did not have to actually wipe the device and have to put in all the seed phrases that I just did for the guy on mine all over again. Doing that for 24 words on this little thing takes a little while. So I'm like, all right, thank God it updated fully. You got to have your device updated fully. Firmware updated to the max. The latest one, which as of right now anyways, is 1.61. You have to have that. So on your Nano, you're going to log in with your PIN code. You're going to set it on the Ethereum setting and hit both buttons to access that. And then now you're in Ethereum mode. Okay, so then you're going to go to the Theta site, click on hardware, and we're using a ledger. So there's 1, 2, and 3 you can choose. And I believe, I'll double check right now, but I believe the middle one, this derivation path, or whatever they call it, this is the one you need. So if I pick this one, it's going to show a different address. If I show this one, it's going to show a different address. If I show the middle one, it's a different address. But this middle one was the one that Ledger Live also showed. So if I click on this and hit continue, this little message will pop up, blah 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 blah, and it like goes in out in out in out in out. Ledger, again, with the actual device in your hand, make sure you push both buttons once you set it to Ethereum. That way the device goes into Ethereum mode. All right, so you can't forget that either. And it needs to be fully updated firmware to start with. So again, I'll pick the middle one. I'm going to hit continue. And then this comes up and it just does this back and forth, back and forth. I'm not doing anything right now. I'm just letting it go because it's actually downloading a few addresses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know that this address right here, which I'm going to blur out, is, or I should say was, because it's gone now, the address that this individual had. And it ends in this right here. So I knew, oh, this is it. And of course I saw there was some stuff right here. And so I would click on this one and it would allow me to access my wallet, and now I'm in. That little thing where it was pulling the addresses and that little security key message, boom, 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 boom. If your firmware is not updated, at least higher than 1.43 or wherever I was at, I don't know the level, just make sure it's updated all the way. If you don't, that thing will sit there and it won't do anything. And you're like, it says like hardware wallet cannot be found or something, a little error comes up and it just sits there. So you have to make sure it's fully firmware updated before you start. And I believe, I'm going to double check real quick for you just in case before you do the firmware update. I think there's an area where you can go that says show me my seed phrase. Just in case you need to rewrite it down or go pull your paper out of your safe or whatever and look at the seed phrase and double check, triple check that the seed phrase you have had written down this whole time is exactly what the Ledger Live software is telling you. Yeah, here's your seed phrase. Because in case you're one of those people that has to wipe your Nano, you better make darn sure that that seed phrase is right first. Extremely important, or you're done. So I'm going to pause for a second, open up Ledger Live again, and see, I thought there was a section in there possibly. I think Trezor does it. I think also Nano does it, but give me 1 second and let me just double check. All right, here it is. So in your Ledger Live, you don't have to be in Ethereum mode or any mode, just regular, plug in your Nano, go to the main screen here, click on Manager. Again, you'll see the firmware. Don't do the firmware yet. I searched right here. I started typing in the word REC for recovery. It is an app that you can install on your device. Of course, if you have too many apps already on here, you may have to uninstall one, like uninstall the Bitcoin app or uninstall the Litecoin app or whatever, you know, because you can always put them back on and it won't lose your stuff. So now we have the recovery check, and the instructions were here on the Ledger website. Find recovery check, whatever, install it, which we just did. Step 2, start recovery check, connect and unlock your device, which we did. Navigate to recovery check. So on my device, I'm going to look at it right now, and I actually have something now called recovery check right on my Nano. So if I hit both buttons on that, which I'm going to just go back to my main screen here. Check your recovery phrase. I'm going to also double press buttons on that one. Recovery phrase with 24 words. Recovery phrase with 18 words or 12 words. Well, I know this particular one was 24, so I'm going to hit the buttons. Enter word 1. So I hit both buttons and it wants me to enter the first word that I had on my list, I guess. So I have to now put in that long recovery phrase one by one. And after you put in like 3 characters, it pops up words. And then you can hit the right button to go to the next word that's similar. Next word, and then, oh, there's the word. Hit both buttons to say, okay, that's the word. Then you move on to the next word. So it says, yeah, choose the first letter of the word, like I explained earlier. If you have an incorrect recovery phrase, then what? In other words, if you did all the words, but you're like, hey, this is not right, ensure you did not run recovery check with a passphrase enabled. Make sure the correct recovery phrase length is selected, meaning you didn't choose 12 words, but you really had 24 words. Verify that the order of the words entered on the device matches the order written on your recovery sheet. Check that all the words of your recovery phrase are on the BIP 39 word list, which they link to. Still unable to find the recovery passphrase, please contact Ledger support. So what I would tell you is, if you do this, double check your recovery phrase and you put all those words in and it says no, like no, wrong, it's not your address, this is the wrong one, do not continue with anything that I've told you. Do not do the firmware update, just in case. What I would suggest is, if you have any crypto on that thing, which you should at this point, you probably do, get some other wallet, whether that's the Exodus wallet or an Atomic wallet, and get all your stuff off of there and send it to the Atomic wallet or the Exodus. Now again, if by chance you had Theta on this thing somehow because you accidentally sent your Theta to this address, that's a problem, because you cannot send anything out of this thing without updating the firmware on the Theta site, and then going to the Theta site. So you would need to go contact Ledger support and say, hey, this is the deal, and I'll put this link up for everybody in case you're having trouble. But bottom line is, if everything works out for you, your recovery phrase is good, go ahead and do the firmware update. And if it says, oh, there's another firmware update, do the next firmware update until it's happy, like I showed you on mine. Yep, you're at 1.61 or whatever. Now you can close the Ledger app, Ledger Live, and then go to that Theta website like I showed you. Click on the hardware wallet, Ledger, pick that middle one as I showed you for the derivation path, 3 of them, pick the middle one, and then hit next, and then it should do that in out thing with the security warning, and then bang, there's your addresses, and typically it's the very first address. And you should see, oh yeah, that's it, that's the one I sent it to. And now you have access to it. Now, if you're trying to get it off of there and move it somewhere else to maybe the Theta phone wallet app, then you need to have at least a sliver of T-Fuel in there. Like 1 T-Fuel is enough, plenty. At the same time, you could just leave it alone, because you have access to it with your hardware wallet now. You have access to the site, it's right there, it ain't going anywhere. You're good. You just needed to make sure your device was fully up to firmware, up to date, firmware up to date. So at any rate, that's it. That's all. This should solve a lot of problems for some people, because this is kind of a common thing, and I think I'm going to go public on YouTube on this one, not just private on Patreon, because people will be emailing me anyways. And I'll be like, oh, go see the video. Oh, go see my private video. Oh, go see my private. Nah, this is good, useful information for everybody. So that's it. I got this guy his coins back. He's absolutely ecstatic. He was sick to his stomach yesterday, and I think the day before. And I said, as long as you have, if this is a hardware wallet, or you have the private key, or even the seed phrase, you're covered. We will get it back. And I'm like, do this, do that, try this first, try that. I was trying to let him do it so he didn't have to send me the seed phrase. I don't want your seed phrase. So finally, I'm like, send me the seed phrase here, half of it, and then send the other half over to this thing. Like, so they're separate. I've got them, and I'll put them together in a certain order, and then I'll go in. So I was able to go in and get them. So I'm like, all right, I got them. Give me your Theta, your actual Theta address. So he sends it to me. I said, all right, I sent you like 50. Did you get them? Yes, I got them. All right, here's the rest. And I'm going to send you like 10 T-Fuel because you're going to need them. So You know, really 1 T fuel is enough, but they're a penny, for God's sakes. I sent them 10 cents. And anyway, so another one saved, and hopefully some more of you will learn off of this yourselves. And if you ever run into this, oh, well, here's the how-to video. Epic. Take care.